Pretty busy day, so only one video today. Not a problem. Not a problem. Hi, my name is Sebastian. This is Vision Denial, where the Road to MSI, where we watch all the playoff series. Yes, including that one. For the previous episode, we talked about Damwon Kia without their famous top laner Nuguri, and then we go to this series right after, where Nuguri is playing with the famed FPX, FunPlus Phoenix versus Rare Atom, who are ex-world champions. So, it's a world champion roster versus a completely new one. It's nice. This was a pretty good series. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it. Not up in my favorites, but, it was pretty good. I enjoyed this. I always enjoy the shenanigans that FunPlus Phoenix bring forward to the table. They are some of the most creative drafters, historically speaking. They, as described by the casters, really tap into the dark arts of League of Legends. And it really helps when you have somebody like Nuguri to do so, to, really push that envelope. Rare Atom, however, some of the weaknesses I mentioned in their previous series have shown up, and even their strengths were not enough to help them. Things that I like. There's a variety amongst all of the drafts. So, I'm not going to talk about necessarily the variety, I'm going to talk about how cohesive. And honestly, it is cohesive across the bar. I have maybe a slight issue with, Rare Atom's second game draft that ended up becoming very awkward to play around. But otherwise, most of the time, they're very cohesive. They have a very solid game plan. Rarely do I see a team pick up something that's very difficult to implement. So, good. Solid across the bar. You want to avoid something that is very complicated unless you know for sure you have a wide gap between the two. And considering how this was 7th seed, I believe. Yes, 7th seed versus 5th seed. The gap is not that big. We haven't gotten to the point of huge gaps of 7th to 10th. So, nice. What I will say, however, no, actually, also even roll for roll, the gap of skill was not that big. Nuguri, on the other hand, I think was the only notable exception here, but that's because he's just a beast. Holy smokes, he's really good at League of Legends. Other things that I like. I like the thoroughness of Rare Atom's vision. The issue, however, is, and the casters mention it, it's very shallow, so some of the information that they gain from it is sometimes irrelevant. It's very good defensive early game vision, so they know that they're not being invaded in, but it doesn't help them further in. So they have solid, very early game vision that could be more efficient, but then the further along the game goes, the weaker it gets. FunPlus Phoenix had very decent vision denial. I don't know if it's necessarily because of Rare Atom's weakness in vision, or if they were just seriously good at it. We'll get to see that in their next series, where they face off against JDG. Who I famously was not a big fan of. Now, I do appreciate that for all 4 games, Rare Atom had early tempo control. I don't appreciate, however, that they kept losing it very quickly. There seems to be something going on with all of these games, except for Game 3, where they held tempo control and kept it all the way in. It gave a lot of false hope to their fans, imagining as if they were going to actually get somewhere with it. Womp womp. To the point where they allowed FunPlus Phoenix the abilities to oh, I'm getting messages all over the place. Where they allowed the ability for FunPlus Phoenix to counterpick both of their solo laners, and allowed them way more flexibility with their abilities, way more flexibility with where they wanted to go. and unfortunately caused their core to be weakened by the choices. They last picked their support, which I don't think was the smartest move to do. I don't think last picking support's a good thing. Like first picking support, I may have my like small issues with, but like last picking it should definitely not be there. It should be part of your second or third rotation, but it should not be your first or last. Those tend to leave you open for lots of errors. Uh, let's see. I can appreciate that both sides are very conscious of the win conditions. Unfortunately, I think that FunPlus Phoenix are much better at executing on them. It might have to do with the fact that they tend to also pick much simpler compositions than a rare atom, so it's easier for them to approach it. But given the situation, FunPlus still edges out in terms of being better at approaching their win conditions. Let's see here. Things that I don't like. Rare Atom are very inconsistent. And there are times where I'm like, really solid start, but then they don't follow up with it. But they have moments where they're controlling neutral objectives incredibly well. And then others where they're just kind of like meandering up the mid lane out of position, not really doing anything. They also, both sides have like a really hard time securing objectives. Like it's one thing if you know exactly how to set it up and you put it into you put yourself in a position where you know you can stop the enemy team from being able to steal it from you. It's an easy process to secure it, and yet somehow both sides get objectives stolen from them under their noses too often for me to be okay with it. Like, it's one thing if it's a highlight reel that happens once and you're like, oh, we laugh it off. But, like, it happens at least 5 times across the 4 games, and that's too many times. It's too many. Other things. FunPlus Phoenix needs to improve their vision. Vision denial is fine and whatever, and they have moments of brilliance where you can tell that they have good enough tracking wards, especially during the mid game when they're trying to like manipulate waves into positions that are really good for neutral objectives. The issue I have with this is that their early game, their vision is very sparse, if not non-existent. Seems to be playing on autopilot mode as if they are expecting Rare Atom to act a certain way. It works out for them, cool, congratulations, but I'd rather they have like better, like more consistent vision. I don't want to see more wards from the enemy team when you could, I don't know, have a consistent vision. Like, you shouldn't be working to avoid being spotted harder than you should be looking for other people. Like, your information game is weakened from doing that. Let's see. I mentioned that Rare Item has very defensive vision, so it doesn't really do anything. They do get slightly more aggressive, but it's not great. Oh, FunPlus has very efficient Barons. Again, they don't secure it all the best every time, but very efficient to it. I wish that I didn't have to see so many games with what I would indicate as Baron dependency for closing out games. Now, FunPlus isn't like purely dependent on this. It shows that Rare Atom has a hard time figuring out ways to move the game forward without the Baron. Now, Rare Atom, when you come back in the summer, during that process, during the summer split itself, find better ways to move forward and gain advantages and balloon leads than just let's set up Baron. Honestly, your best move is probably just to do that. Like, is you had opportunities for like side lane pushes, you had opportunities to like pressure leads, and especially in your game 4 where you had tempo control, you really had something going, and you just didn't pressure FunPlus Phoenix enough for it to do anything. FunPlus Phoenix, things I want to see you do better other than just better vision. Sometimes you do goofy things. Like, I mean, you're a team who's known for doing wacky picks, but also only like sometimes. Sometimes I'd hope that you would take, like, you would reel it in just a little bit. Like, you could get overzealous every so often, but at this point, that's more like a nitpick than an actual, like, critique. This is fairly solid across the board. You could do better with vision, and you could do better with securing objectives. Those are my two biggest, like, issues. You're fine at closing games. You're not too overly Baron dependent, but you're also still very efficient with the Baron. Neutral objectives are pretty solid across the board. You do picks and bans very creatively and with flexibility and adaptation. And they're not just like quirky, they do actually have some cohesiveness to them. So all in all, this is really good. Now, like I mentioned in some other videos, because of like how fast a lot of these go, I do know that FunPlus does well. Further, like they are doing well. How well that is, I don't know yet. I will see when we get to that point. It'll be a while. There's a lot of series between this one and China's next series. I think like 8 more series to go before we get to China's next playoff series. But otherwise, good shit. If FunPlus Phoenix were the ones that made it to the international tournament, I'd have no complaints, honestly. This is some consistent stuff. I don't think they would beat Damwon. The skill expression I don't think is quite there, but like most of everything else is pretty solid. Would they beat any other team? Probably, maybe not Mad Lions, but like that's a very maybe. We'll see, because like I think it's a stylistic difference, and I have only seen one series from FunPlus. I'll need more information before I can get to that point, but hopefully we get some nice series out of them, and maybe hopefully they improve in their vision game, because I think that's their biggest weakness. They can be very exploited off of the lack of like early game vision, especially. Let me get you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one where we watch who are we watching next? Let's take a look. Oh, we're going back to the Pacific for Paris Saint-Germain versus J-Team. It's a long-awaited rematch. Ciao.